to Mesopotamian religion. Mesopotamians were the most pessimistic of all ancient people about the afterlife. The only semi-positive thing they have to say about death and Sheol and the underworld is that if you're a king or a peasant, you wind up at the same place. So the ground is level in Sheol, but everyone in Sheol endures what the best description I've ever seen of this is, I think it's from Jean Bottero, who's an expert in Mesopotamian religion. He referred to it as a cadaverous existence that never ends. Ooh, I can't wait. This is not a good place. But if this view is true, you don't have anything waiting for you. In other words, you can serve the gods all you want, be their slave, and what do you get at the end? You get to live as a cadaver. That's just wonderful. The conclusion follows again from the fact that if ET is God, then his status as a created being himself means that all in the universe that is real is the material. There's no spiritual reality beyond the material, and again, the Mesopotamians weren't looking forward to anything beyond that anyway. Pantheists and those who want to give the universe itself life or treat it as a living being or biocosm are left with this reality. No matter how spiritual they think the universe is, it's still just matter, beyond which is nothing. There's nothing beyond that. Because if you say there's something beyond matter, something outside creation, you've just dumped your pantheism. Typically, those who speak of the universe as its own creator do so to avoid the idea of a personal deity that transcends creation, because that idea comes from religion or the Bible. And they want to avoid the personal accountability that the biblical worldview entails. No matter how badly you want to deny the theistic creator view and yet keep a feeling of personal destiny beyond the material, these two ideas are contradictory in terms of philosophy. If matter is all there is, then matter is all that is. Okay? If something is beyond matter, that thing can't be material. The Big Bang doesn't create itself. It's a result, not a cause. If there's no higher purpose for your life because there is no immaterial, non-physical, non-material place that you go when you die, there's no higher purpose, you have nothing to look forward to, you are simply a higher form of animal. You might be lesser than the aliens who made you, whose only purpose was to have you serve them. And if you imagine that there are multiple races of aliens, some who want to aid us in achieving our high potential, then some questions follow. You might say, well, maybe only the bad guys treat us as slaves. What about the good ones? How can you tell the taskmaster alien from the benefactor alien? Again, if you read the abduction literature, this is not, that is a legitimate question. We know from Sitchin's account of the conniving escapades of the gods of Sumer that they behave just like we do. The point is, they are fully capable of deception and self-interest. So how do you know they can be trusted and who to trust? I mean, if this is reality, again, the polytheistic Mesopotamian Anunnaki scenario, if that's the truth, how in the world do you know who to trust? Because they're constantly going behind each other's back and conniving and deceiving and lying and cheating. I mean, who are you going to trust? If alien abductees are to be believed, how are the violations they undergo benevolent? I know, it's rhetorical. Why is it that Dr. David Jacobs, leading authority on alien abduction, has concluded the alien motivation is not our benefit, but for their own? Again, he's not the only one. The theistic view, in contrast, has an ultimate purpose for humanity. We are to image God, which we've talked about before, to work in his stead, be his representative. And what that means down here, this idea is actually the basis in Reformation theology, that all work, any gainful employment, is godly. All work has value. There should be no distinction. Let me phrase it correctly. I don't want to say there is no distinction. In God's mind there isn't, but there should be, in our mind, no distinction between what we think of as secular and sacred. It's all sacred in God's mind. It makes God happy when we are creative and industrious, and God wants us to find work that we enjoy and then revel in it. We are to put our trust in him for our eternal destiny by obeying his plan for our salvation, so that the practice that's a typo there. So the practice of our lives is, as the Westminster Confession puts it, to love God and enjoy him forever. That is the point of why we're here in God's mind, the biblical God, not the Anunnaki gods. The outcome of this is eternal sonship, or eternal childship, if that's a word, to become the sons of God, the children of God, to replace what has been lost through the progression of evil. This is what John says, point blank. See what love the Father has given us, that we should be called children of God, and that is what we are. The reason the world does not know us is that it did not know him. Beloved, we are God's children now. What we will be has not yet been revealed. What we do know is this: when he is revealed, we will be like him, for we will see him as he is. Question: what is the destiny? What is your destiny at the hands of E.T.? To be ramped up into the collective consciousness? Okay, what proof do you have that E.T. has changed from the self-interested taskmaster he was in the days of Mesopotamia? The third logical implication to the E.T. creator view, we've talked about 1 and 2, and number 3, is the idea of racial superiority and inequality is true. It's absolutely true. This conclusion logically extends from the Mesopotamian texts that tell us that the gods created kingship for humankind. If you read Sitchin closely, he will refer to 2 creative acts with respect to humanity. One, is prior to the flood, where a primitive form of humankind is created again as slaves. But then one of the gods, Enki, comes back and sort of ramps up or genetically tinkers again with the humanoid thing, and specifically does that, adds more divine blood to him, because we are going to make them this particular line. And you actually have 2 lines emerge in Mesopotamian thinking again. We're going to make certain of these individuals more like us, because we're going to give kingship to them. We're going to put kingship in their hands. So if this is the case, then certain bloodlines are inherently superior because they're royal. And I want to say this: if you read Lawrence Gardner, this is Lawrence Gardner. Okay, bloodline, the Holy Grail, the whole bit, the Jesus bloodline mythology, going back to this, you have to believe this. If this is what you think the texts say, then this is the conclusion. Certain bloodlines are superior because they have more of the Anunnaki blood. See, we all people who would latch onto this, what Gardner's saying, they read it and think, that's me. That's me. I'm one of the superior ones. Well, maybe not. Questions that naturally follow. Are you among the elite? Are you as racially gifted by the gods as other people? Do you suppose that African Americans and Jews are in the royal bloodline? Hispanics? Put any other race other than white Anglo-Saxons in there. If the idea of racial supremacy is true, should we defend it? Should we defend it? Will the gods enforce the idea when they return? Will they weed us out? Will there be those that rule and those who serve? Again, in contrast, the theistic worldview is that all races are equal because all races are human. All humans are God's imagers, male and female. There are no exceptions. Now, I know that the church, in some of its more wonderfully dunder-headed moments, and I'm including in this century, has propped up the idea of racial superiority through pseudo-exegesis of passages like the curse of Canaan and Ham. It is not what the text teaches. It's what people who are predisposed to racial inequality have said the text teaches, but it is not what the text teaches. And frankly, today, I think the exegesis is a little less self-serving than it was perhaps in the Civil War and in the 60s. Those humans who follow God's plan for salvation